We're back. I know it's been a minute, but I have had a meeting every single day this week. This meeting happened, I think, like Tuesday or whatever, but it was 3 hours, 22 minutes. Very long. It will be broken down into two different parts, and I will have very detailed timestamps of what is going on because I understand this is a long one. So let's just get into it. Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee, they will be talking about the backyard breeding, some Martindale TIF thing, TWG that wants a tax abatement, and the short-term rental thing, which I anticipate will get a lot of public comment, but let's get into it.
Good evening. I will call to order the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee to order for Monday, July 15th. We'll begin with introductions
Oh,
of my
do you see
colleagues,
that?
starting on the
Look
first
at this
row.
little twerp. I gotta take a
Good evening. I will
selfie.
call to order the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee to order for Monday, July
selfie
15th.
time.
We'll begin with introductions of my colleagues, starting on the first row.
What a jerk off.
Thank you very much, Madam Leader. Paul Ane, District 22, West Perry Township.
Oh, you like my
Thank you,
hat?
Madam Leader. Brian Mowry, District 25.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Kristen Jones, District 18.
Everybody's got their sippy cup over
Thank
here.
you, Madam Chair. Ron Gibson, District 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brienne Delaney, District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Roberts, District 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Barth, representing Council District 7.
Freaking amateurs
Thank you,
around
Madam
here.
Leader. Leroy Robinson, representing District 1.
I don't see Michael Paul Hart, Derek Cahill, and Jared Evans. Remember, Jared Evans did not go to the last two meetings, including the full council meeting.
Thank you, councilors. My name is Maggie Lewis, District 5.
He has no full-time
We
job,
have a
and he lives with
pretty
his
full
parents.
agenda this evening. With consent from my colleagues, I'd like to take proposal number 247, 248, 249, and 250 together. All four proposals are reappointments to the Greater Virginia Avenue Corridor Economic Improvement District. Are there any other appointees that'd like to come forward? Seeing none, councilors, you do have their attendance and their information in your packets. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak to proposal number 247, 248, 249, 250? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposal number 247, 248, 249, and 250 to the full council for final adoption.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor
Gibson with
signify by
his
saying aye. Those opposed, same
Colonel
sign.
Sanders
The motion carries.
fit on.
Thank you so much.
Cahill's
Thank you all
here.
for your willingness
Michael
to
Paul
serve
Hart
our
is here.
city.
Still
The next
no
item on our
Jared
agenda is
Evans.
Proposal number 202, amends the declaratory resolution and redevelopment plan for the Metropolitan Development Commission for the purpose of, one, expanding the greater Martindale Brightwood housing redevelopment area to include an enlarged area.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. My name is
Wonderful.
Emily Scott, and I serve as the Administrator for Community and Economic Development with the Department of Metropolitan Development here at the city. And
A lot
I'm
of
joined tonight
people
with my
there.
colleague, Jeff Hasser, who is with the Director of Housing Strategy at the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership.
Oh, what is
So
that?
tonight we're just going to give you an overview of the
Somebody
proposed
bring their
Martindale
kid with
Brightwood
them?
redevelopment area expansion and the Reagan Park allocation area.
Or is that an
creation.
adult? I'm so confused.
So the map you'll see before you on the screen is the greater Martindale Brightwood housing redevelopment area. And this was originally created in 2021 during the creation and simultaneous with the creation of the Hillside Housing TIF. As you'll see, this redevelopment area includes a large area of housing in Martindale Brightwood and adjacent neighborhoods that spans just north of I-70 and generally between Sherman and College Avenues. And so the area in purple on the left side or west side of the map is the area that we're looking to expand the redevelopment area to include today. You'll see that the area has the Hillside HOTIF marked in hashes, as well as existing older industrial TIFs around the Keystone Enterprise Park. So as part of the expansion and the rationale for the expansion of the redevelopment area is to create an area-wide housing TIF allocation area within the redevelopment area.
Lovely.
So you'll see the area in yellow on the map, which is the proposed Reagan Park allocation area that sits within the larger redevelopment area. And the section in blue on kind of the top area of the map is the section of properties and parcels owned by INHP. That is where the Arnold Place housing development will happen, that you'll hear a little bit more from Jeff about later. So when deciding whether to do a housing TIF, there's a few options related to including parcels that are only owned by a particular developer, a particular property owner, or looking at properties that are potentially in the broader neighborhood. And so earlier this spring, representatives from INHP and DMD met with neighbors from the Reagan Park neighborhood to share some options as related to how to draw the boundaries. One of those scenarios could be a single site TIF, which would just include the parcels that INHP owned, but that would sort of limit the neighborhood from benefiting from other redevelopment that could be supported, and infrastructure development and affordable housing development that could be supported by creating this larger area-wide HOTIF, which is
So benefiting is what she's saying, and what I think it is that taxpayers are obviously funding this whole thing, and they're just like, well, listen, if they're not we want to make sure we can screw all the taxpayers over and make sure these development companies get as much money as they can.
a strategy that DMD, the neighborhood, and INHP felt was ultimately best. And so once a area-wide TIF or HOTIF is created, DMD typically
TIF.
works with neighborhood representatives, neighborhood association leaders, community development corporations to create an advisory committee to help govern and provide insight and recommendations for the use of some of those HOTIF increments once that is created. And so that'll be something that we work with the neighborhood on later this year for when the TIF is actually in play in 2025. So in order to create a HOTIF and redevelopment area expansion, we want to build on existing momentum. And so a few years ago, the 25th and Monon area had a vision plan created for it. And so DMD worked with a number of neighborhood-based organizations like Martindale Brightwood, CDC, Edna Martin Christian Center, other representatives from the area to really kind of come up with a vision plan for this particular node, in part because there were a number of city-owned brownfield sites or city-owned vacant sites, one of which is actually where INHP will be doing their housing development. As part of this expansion, we'll be adding 89 parcels to the greater Martindale Brightwood redevelopment area, and then working to create this particular housing TIF. So a housing TIF has some very specific requirements which must be in place in order to create this designation. So at least 3/4 of the parcels must be used for residential purposes. In this case, 77% of which are meeting that requirement. At least 1/3 of the parcels must have been constructed more than 50 years ago. In this case, that's 96% of the structures, and at least 1/3 must be vacant or have a government order otherwise tax delinquent. And in this case, there's 54%. So in some cases, it can be hard to meet those requirements, but when starting to look at the characteristics of the neighborhood, we knew that there was a good opportunity and to be able to meet those requirements to create this housing TIF. So a lot of this is really being done because of the catalytic investment that INHP is planning to do in the coming months and years, and I'll turn it over to Jeff to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Emily. So INHP, we're Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership. Again, I'm Jeff Hasser. I'm the Director of Housing Strategy. A portion of my work is the development of single-family homes or new home ownership opportunities within Indianapolis. Our organization is a nonprofit. We've been in existence for over 35 years, primarily assisting Indianapolis and Marion County residents achieving their goals of home ownership. We've listed above our mission statement is we create affordable housing solutions for people with low and moderate incomes and collaborate to enhance quality of life in Indianapolis neighborhoods. Next slide. In addition to that, we believe home and community are foundational to quality of life. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what you look like, we stand against the persistent housing inequities faced by historically marginalized communities. We are committed to advancing equitable, affordable housing solutions that address the diverse needs, preferences, and barriers of those we serve.
Okay.
Above, you'll see kind of the broad scope of housing continuum, everything from homelessness all the way up to market rate housing and the level of involvement or support that is generally involved. Especially with this project, the Arnold Place project, we find we fall right within that affordable workforce housing scope that you see at the bottom. To give you a sense of the project, again, we already saw a little bit of an aerial, but here's another one. In 2022, DMD released an RFP for the development of the Colonial Bakery site, former Colonial Bakery truck maintenance site, but occasionally called the Colonial Bakery site. INHP was selected as the developer for the project. In the middle of 2023, we were able to secure ARPA and new market tax credit funds from the city for the development of the project. In late 2003, INHP, we hosted public groundbreaking, actually on Halloween of 2023, and the project was officially announced Arnold Place after Mr. Arnold, I believe now 102-year-old resident, a longtime resident of the neighborhood. The picture you see up there is actually pre-development of the site of the Colonial Bakery, so that looks like before any construction started. In 2024, site development became underway, and INHP submitted our application to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis for additional down payment assistance funds to support the units that are available to households at 80% of the area median income or below. And again, this is what the site looks like. I think that was just taken a few weeks ago, but looks pretty similar to what it looks like today. And then we anticipate in early 2025, homes will become available and be able to be sold at both affordable and market rates.
So what they're doing is that they're using taxpayer money to build homes and sell them at a market rate. So when other things aren't getting done, like your roads, this is the reason why. Just to let you know. And the whole housing thing is a much bigger, it's a bigger conversation than just this video. And the reason why we have so many problems right now. And the basics are that we have too many people coming in. 80% of the money that's in circulation right now was printed in the last few years. You have a bunch of illegals coming in, and they're getting $400 a month from Exodus Refugee that gets money from the federal government, your taxpayer money. And things are just really expensive. So, and then you had all these out-of-state people buy up a bunch of homes so they can rent them, and you have all these people that bought these homes also for short-term rentals for Airbnb and so forth, and just kind of ruined all the communities, and this is the result of it.
Our development team consists of us, Martindale Brightwood CDC, Onyx and East, who is acting as our builder, Rotman Collier Architects, Landwork Engineering, and Heartland Environmental.
We need to check the campaign reports for sure.
Represented there, and obviously not a part of our development team, but they are here today as representatives of the Reagan Park Neighborhood Association too.
What's that name sound familiar?
You can see some renderings of what we anticipate the project to look like.
God, that is ugly. This is like, it's simply demoralizing. I mean, I see these houses all the time while I'm door knocking, and they are just awful looking. It's like you had a bunch of spare parts laying around, and then you're like, yeah, you know what would be really cool? It's kind of quirky? A Frankenstein house.
Townhomes with attached garages, 3-story. If you go to the next slide, we'll do 33 units with 51% affordable. We anticipate the square footage to be between 1,300 and 1,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, attached garage, as I mentioned, and obviously about a block from the Monon Trail around in the 2400 block of Winthrop. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the reasons for why we are exploring this HO-TIF. The 2 primary reasons are, one was we originally proposed 22 units on the site. After working with the architecture and the development team, we were able to work to 33 units on the site. We believe that the higher level of units and the opportunity that this site projected, we wanted to be able to take advantage of that. So we're still scoping for 33. Our goal is to still develop with the 33 units. The second is the increase in interest rates. And apparently, anytime we have any milestones on this project, interest rates jump, unfortunately. But the 2 points you'll kind of see over the past 5 years or so are interest rates. And both the point in time when we were selected as the developer for the site and when we submitted our applications. So previous to us submitting for the RFP, the interest rates have increased more than double from that time period. And therefore, as you're probably familiar with, the increase in interest rates reduce the buying power for our affordable buyers, and therefore reduces or increases the need for subsidy that we need to offset that.
You hear that? You heard that right. Increased subsidy, which means you need more taxpayer money to foot the bill so things can be cheaper.
For that subsidy, this is where the HOTIF fund utilization will become. INHP will only be requesting the use of our HOTIF increment generated by the parcels within the Arnold Place project. Eventually, we'll have approval of a bond issuance to come in a later meeting, and only for the creation of the HOTIF allocation area and the RDA expansion to be considered today. All other increment generated from the non-INHP parcels are to be used at the discretion of the city and the Reagan Park neighborhood. Reagan Park neighborhood's priorities around infrastructure improvements have also been shared within their neighborhood support letter. And INHP will play no role in the allocation of increment outside of Arnold Place unless requested by the city or Reagan Park neighborhood. And with that, I'll conclude the presentation. We're open for any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Before we open it up for questions and comments, I'm going to allow my colleagues on the first row to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Derek Cahill, District 23.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Michael Paul Hart, District 20.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm proud to sponsor this
Of course you are. You're just
housing
another
TIF,
government
and
pawn.
I'm very excited about the additional housing in
Oh,
the
shit,
area.
Gibson's not married? Look at that, no ring. Huh.
Primarily, the affordable piece of that is really attractive. And I've signed on to support it and very excited about it, as I mentioned. I think you mentioned something about the infrastructure, and I've vetted with you both in terms of making sure that neighborhood is whole in terms of infrastructure, meaning that, I know we have this project here, and I think we have a commitment to make sure we try to do our best to make sure that the streets and the sidewalks are all equity. I mean, meaning they look the same.
Huh?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. So I think as, the goal with creating the larger HOTIF allocation area was really to be able to serve the neighborhood beyond just the Arnold Place project. And so as that increment becomes available, the city administration will work with the neighborhood to understand priorities and for utilization of those funds to address alleys, sidewalks, streets, and other, TIF and HOTIF eligible expenses within the area. So we look forward to working with you on that.
Huh, that's weird. That's the same thing that happened with that park center, right? And literally the same thing, if I remember right. They were supposed to have a committee where they did have a neighborhood committee to figure out what they were going to do with the money, and then the city council comes in and is like, yeah, actually we need that money to pay off this multi-million-dollar park. Sorry, had to read the fine print though.
Thank you very much. That's the end of my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, councilors. Additional questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Delaney, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have a price for the homes that will be sold? Or is that something that you have already calculated at this point in the project?
Yes, so
really?
per city policies, we do what's called a plans and specs appraisal. So basically the construction plans we use, we hand to an appraiser and we say, how much eventually can these be sold for on the private market? With that, we did receive, and the reasoning for that is two reasons. One is because we want to be essentially neutral as it relates to the market. We don't want to artificially increase the market And therefore, Ms. Smith is paying extra taxes, property taxes, because our project is driving those taxes up. But we also don't want to be negative towards the market, and suddenly Mr. Jones, who's lived there for 10 years and wants to sell his home, is suddenly, comparing it to comps of our property, and that might be artificially deflated. So we really want to come in right at whatever the appraised value is. Our appraisal for these are $350,000 for the smaller units and $385,000 for the larger units.
Because everybody can afford a $340,000 home, am I right, boys?
So most
with the interest rates that are at right now. Thanks, taxpayers. Appreciate it.
Most of the subsidy that we're using is actually going towards the affordable buyers. We anticipate somewhere around $200,000 for each affordable buyer in order to make these affordable to them.
Who the fuck? Oh my God. You guys are totally out of touch with the rest of the world, or at least the rest of us, the rest of the normies, the plebes, the plebs.
Thank you.
And then Delaney's like, okay, yeah, totally, yeah. You want to know why? Because she is loaded with cash, and the colonel over here must be completely loaded as well. So you'd even you know what? 340,000. Yeah, any schmuck could afford that.
Sir Hart.
I cannot stand these
so up
people.
until that last question, I was under the impression these were rental units, but it sounds like these are owned units based on that last comment there. And I guess with that regard, my question may be answered, to be honest with you, but let me just double check. No, I'm good. Well, thank you.
Additional questions, comments from councilors? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 202? Please come forward, state your name.
You know what it is? It's going to be for these assholes that are like, hey, got myself a deal on this on this thing for 340 grand.
And before you speak, Madam Clerk, if you would like to read the statement.
Yes, ma'am. As we move to the public comment portion of debate for this proposal,
oh, look,
we would
Jared
like to
Evans
remind
has showed
committee
up.
members and the public of a few ground rules.
He has no job,
In order for everyone to have
has
a fair
no
chance to
full-time
speak
job,
and be heard,
lives with
it is
his
important
parents,
that we
but
each
somehow
observe
he
the following
cannot make a
ground rules.
meeting on time.
First, each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Second, any public comments must reasonably relate to the agenda item under consideration. Third, speakers who First Amendment. We will deal with those issues if they come up, but we don't think they will.
That's
And
not
now,
Allie
Madam
Brown.
Chair, if a committee
Allie
member
Brown, you've
asks
lost
for
a whole
consent
bunch
to
of
adopt these
weight.
rules, we can
Congrats.
proceed
Must
to
be
public
the
comments.
keto.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm a Jewish Indianapolis resident, and I'm here tonight to thank you for your concern about Indianapolis housing. My housing concern is that currently in Gaza, 85% of residential housing has been destroyed by Israeli bombs, which are funded by $12.8 million in Indianapolis tax dollars.
Okay, well, first off, I saw the website. This is a Jesse Brown show, by the way. This is another one of his ass clown brigade. I saw the website that he was talking about, and it literally just says Indianapolis funds $12.8 million or whatever it is, but then it gives no details of whatever it is. And listen, you smelly communist that I know that is watching this video right now, if you want to pull your head out of your ass and actually show us how it's getting that money, that would be much appreciated. And the land whale over here that's speaking right now, do us a favor, just shut the fuck up.
I would strongly prefer that my tax dollars are used to invest in our community.
This has nothing
like
to do
the
with
project
Martindale
that's being
Brightwood.
Out of order.
There we go.
We encourage you and appreciate you coming down and speaking and meeting with us this evening. But again, we do ask that you speak to the proposals that are on the agenda. Again, is there anyone else wanting to speak to proposal 202? Seeing none, I entertain a motion. Councilor Delaney.
Literally just
Madam Chair, I move that we
wasting
send
our
proposal
time.
202 to the full council.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yeah, disappear.
Those
I see you
opposed, same
walking
sign.
away.
The motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation. The next item
need
on
to
our
check,
agenda is proposal number
Gibson's campaign
204.
reports.
Approves the statement of benefits of TWG Development LLC, an applicant for tax abatement for property located in an economic revitalization area.
Oh, really? For those that don't remember, TWG has given Joe Hawksett thousands and thousands. I think it's like it's at least 25,000 that TWG has given to the Hawkset campaign. Boy, I can't wait for this. This is gonna be great. Ugh. Oh, damn, we got a goth baddie. Right over here. First row. Did the mouse pick it up? Yeah, right here. Goth baddie. Right here. Simp row over here. Anytime.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Kathy Battle, Program Manager for DMD. I'm here to introduce representatives from TWG. It's a local developer headquartered right here in Indianapolis. They are requesting an approval of their statement of benefits for a multifamily project.
Who is
that
this
will be
person?
located at 412.
Hold on. Take me out. Who is this person? Did somebody bring their kid with them? Or is that like an actual adult? I'm very confused right now.
McCarty, that's southwest of Lucas Oil Stadium. This is within the Consolidated Area TIF District.
Hey,
each of you should have received
Hey,
a copy of the presentation and a short one-page summary.
Jolly Rancher.
TWG
showing up to the
is
party.
requesting the 10-year real property tax abatement for their investment on this project. And they will offer 15% of its units at 70% affordability.
Hey, you know, if you just give us a little tax abatement, tell you what, we will lower the rent.
We have Representatives Grant Deaton here to present and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, councilors. As Kathy had mentioned, my name is Grant Deaton with TWG Development, here with my colleague.
Oh, this actually makes a whole lot of sense right now. Okay, so hold on. Coming in hot, Ron Gibson was a big fan of that that whole TIF with Martindale Brightwood. Now you might be thinking, it's like, all right, well, what the hell is all this? Indy Chamber. So Maura Carlset was the person running the INHP, the people that we just heard from before. Well, then Carl resigned from there, and then she was working with Indy Chamber that gave $500 to Gibson. Hey, you know what? Remember, a lot of these people, their soul is not worth that much to them. I'm sure we'll see that again. And then the local firefighters pack, the union packs, really do love Democrats. But then now she's opened up her own consulting biz. And I don't know who that is.
Chase Smith on behalf of our project 412 West McCarty Street. Kathy, if you go ahead to the next slide. These next couple of slides are a couple, or I guess 5 MEDC supported projects that TWG is either actively under construction on, is in the lease-up phase, and or is in the pre-development effort. So again, just to highlight quickly, the Stella or 1827 Lofts
West McCarty
is located on the city's north side along Meridian Street, 166 workforce units, Bakery Living, 200 units on the city's east side. Rise on Meridian set to deliver here in the next 45 days, 269 units on the city's south side. And then next slide, Kathy, you'll have the Assembly, which is 132 units, and where TVG's headquarters is located on the east side on Washington Street, as well as the Westmont, which is on the city's near north side that TWG developed a couple years ago.
So ugly.
Next slide, please. TWG is super excited about the opportunity to develop an additional 270 units on the city's south side and the old south side neighborhood. This project will be a 270 unit market rate and workforce housing community that will be comprised of studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units. It will also have a 3,000 square foot retail stall fronting Missouri Street, as well as a 203 stall parking garage.
That is actually my district.
Construction type will of course be a 5/1 podium, so first floor concrete podium plus plus 5 stories of wood frame construction. And our estimated timeline to complete the project is start in March of 25 with a March 2027 completion date. Next slide, please. So those who are maybe unfamiliar with the project site, highlighted in orange is a 1.9 acre site. Currently Young & Sons owns and occupies the site. They run their business here in
It's literally right in front of Lucas Oil.
As you can see, we're just southwest of Lucas Oil Stadium. Next slide, please. Again, this is just an aerial view for your understanding of the project, where it's located in terms of the wider downtown CBD. Next slide, please. Again, just highlighting the development plan. So here's the site plan, which we recently completed our rezone to CBD2 with.
Oh, there is a parking. Okay, 203 stalled parking garage.
To highlight 15% of our units will be housed, 15% of our units will be set at 70% AMI, and I do want to highlight these units will be physically indistinguishable from the rest of the community, and the market rate units will have the same finishes, the same access to community amenities that are listed on the slide here. Next slide, please.
Hold on. What do we got here? We got a dog park wash station. We got a 1,200 square foot rooftop deck, which, by the way, is not that big. Internal elevated courtyard with a pool, fire pit, fitness center with a yoga room, bike storage, resident lounge, which is nothing, a co-working space, and a 3,000 square foot retail along Missouri Street. Oh, look, a Starbucks.
And again, to highlight 15% of our units will be housed, These next couple of slides, I just wanted to highlight a representative floor plan. So as you'll see, a double-loaded corridor with units on both sides of the corridor, as well as an internal courtyard, which will house a bulk of the amenities that I just mentioned. Next slide. And then on the sixth floor, one of the major things that I think is going to be a great amenity for residents, again, workforce and/or market rate. Renters is our rooftop deck, which will overlook Lucas Oil Stadium. We're super excited about the opportunity to, of course, showcase this space in this part of town. Next slide, please. And again, just to highlight, these are some unit features. These are TWG's typical unit finishes on all of our market rate communities. So if you've toured any of our communities around town, you'll see these type of finish levels.
So ugly.
In these in our apartment communities. And again, I just want to note that the 70% units as well as the market rate units will be physically indistinguishable
fiber
from one
ready,
another.
but does that mean fiber is installed? Is that what it means? Fiber is ready. Stainless steel. Hold on, let me see. Patio, balcony, ceiling fan. I like how they're like, check this out. Has a standard ceiling fan.
Next slide, please. Again, just to highlight some renderings of the project. So the rendering on the top left is the corner of Missouri and Norwood. Top right is the corner of McCarty and Missouri. And the bottom is the corner of Chadwick and Norwood.
So gross
Next
looking.
slide, please. A couple different elevations. One thing I do want to highlight on this slide is the top elevation, or the McCarty Street elevation. TWG has been working with the regional center staff to further enhance the streetscape and activate that street via an art exhibit. We're already planning that space currently with staff to ensure that that streetscape is activated. Next slide.
Go like Manchurian Candidate, you have been activated.
Here, I just want to highlight on the Missouri Street elevation, this is where our first floor retail stall will be.
Hold on, I want to check this out.
3,000 square feet fronting Missouri.
Oh, here we go. This is what I want to
And
see.
here on the financial and rent revenue piece, the top two photographs I've highlighted in orange, and TWG has been working with city staff to ensure that these income levels as well as the max allowable rents are in fact accurate. And so as you'll see, the
Jeez, man, a studio 1,400. A one bedroom is 1,675. A two bedroom 2,225. You want a three bedroom? It's 2,250. I mean, for an extra $25, you get an extra. Oh, baths, 0 units. Oh, there's not even any units. Okay, so what the hell is the point of putting it on there? And then you have 9 of them that are studio for $1,261, $1,351, and blah blah blah. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
70% income limits are highlighted in orange in the left, as well as the 70% max
People still
allowable
have
rents highlighted
studios,
in
huh?
orange in the photo on the right. Next slide, please. And so as I mentioned on a previous slide, we'll be investing roughly $73 million over a 24-month period. And as you'll see here, a bulk of those costs are coming from the land acquisition as well as the development hard costs to construct the property. Next slide, please.
Oh, yeah.
And rounding out our presentation here, a couple more slides. As Kathy had mentioned, we are agreeing to a 15-year AMI commitment. Again, 15% of our units will be set at 70% AMI. So that'll be a total of 41 workforce housing units scattered throughout the building. No one unit will be allocated to workforce. It's just on a first-come, first-served basis for those workforce units. And again, the rents at the max allowable on the previous slides. We are committing to creating a minimum of 5 new jobs, paying a minimum wage of $22 an hour. And in addition to that, we've been working with staff to ensure that, of course, these units are occupied by those in the 70% income band. So we've agreed with staff to have an annual targeted and hospitality industry-focused marketing efforts, as well as working with public artists to curate and create an art exhibit, which I had previously mentioned on the McCarty Street elevation. Next slide, please. And rounding out the presentation here, so this was city-provided projections on future tax payments. So again, as Kathy had mentioned, we're requesting a 10-year, 80% tax abatement. So as you'll see here on the slide, that equates to roughly $800,000 of annual taxes based on the city's calculations. So therefore, TWG would be abated the $643,000. However, that would mean that TWG still pays roughly $200,000 in addition to the roughly $17,000 to $18,000 the property currently pays now. And with that, I will open it up to any questions from council.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Evans.
Thank you, Leader. Quick question. What sort of security measures are you guys taking with the facility? Such as, have you considered connecting with IMPD's B-Link system?
Wait a minute. I have been told many, many times that downtown Indianapolis is very safe. Why would you ever need to have security, Jared, unless you're thinking that it's actually not safe?
That's something that we would certainly consider and can talk to staff about. Each property that we manage around town has different security measures.
And I want to make sure that when I say, like, oh, this thing, it's downtown, yeah, it is in motherfucking downtown. Like, the circle is right here. Lucas Oil, for anybody who lives in Indianapolis, knows where Lucas Oil is. Lucas Oil is in downtown, and it's right on the corner of it.
Measures. Again, as I'd mentioned, this is a 501 podium, and so you'll have to have access. We'll have access control, CCTV, all your
Man,
standard
look at the goth
security
baddie over
measures
here.
around the building to ensure
Who's she
safety
with?
of all residents. And again, with the parking garage, you'll have to have fob access or a code to enter and exit the garage. So really, with all the parking being kind of contained within the building footprint, I think that would deter some of the activity.
Considering the location next to the stadium, there's going to be a lot of energy and activities around there.
I was told that it's perfectly safe, though. That's what I've been hearing for a long time. Anybody?
Potentially incidents as well off premise. I think you guys should really consider connecting to IMPD's B-Link system.
It sounds like you're trying to get them to buy into the B-Link, but the B-Link doesn't mean shit if there's no prosecution. So like Ryan Mears or the courts, and Jared Evans should know this, but he's just trying to sell a product right now.
I mean, I think all projects should just automatically be included in that, but I would appreciate that if you guys.
It's not. You're just an idiot.
Yeah, understood. That's certainly.
Go get a job. Go get a job.
Take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Leader. I apologize for being late. Councilor Jared Evans, representing District 17 on the far west side.
Slob.
Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question goes to, I see it's a 10-year abatement, 80% abated, and your savings of $6.4 million, and you've got your 41 units at 70% AMI, what's your total reduction in revenue from those 41 units over the 15 years?
I don't have an exact figure, would be happy to follow up, but I guess to give you a quick answer, if you look at slide 14, you can see the difference between our market rate rents and the 70% AMI band.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what are you giving up to get the 6.4 million? Right? I mean, I could do various math, but you only have a percentage of units, 41 units. It doesn't break down which types of units to do that math on, but I would expect you to have that number for me.
Oh, damn. Michael Paul Hart coming in with the spears. I like this. I like a feisty Hart.
Again, Counselor, happy to follow up. So, again, with the studios 1s and 2s, as you'll see in the financial kind of forecast there, we're talking $150 on studios, $325 on one bedrooms, and $600+ on a 2-bedroom unit times 41. What's the math there? $25,000 a month times 41. We're talking significant dollars here that I guess you could consider TWG is giving up to receive this abatement. In terms of overall value, project feasibility, our capital partners, solve to different return metrics, and
still making a bunch of money off of it.
Giving up there.
So the city's been pretty nice to TWG. I know there's another project going on as well. Is there any expectation for this body to see TWG as results of the City Hall redevelopment?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that City Hall thing's been going on for like 3 years now, and nothing's actually happened for me. I was there like a few weeks ago. I was walking around, and it's still crap. They got to gate it around. They got to gate it all gated off because the junkies were hanging out over there.
I don't think it's appropriate probably to speak on the City Hall project for myself. I've not been involved in that project on a day-to-day basis like some of my colleagues have. But again, I think we'd be happy to follow up and provide.
Hey, what do you think about that fit? Khakis. I got a shirt similar to that. What is that, a black jacket then? I'm trying to work on my wardrobe a little bit.
Some response to you.
Okay, just for edification, I mean, when asking for something from the city and having multiple various things going on, it's crucial to know what's the expectation. For
and I think that's part of the reason I highlighted the 5 project at the beginning of the slide, just to show, hey, TWG, we've been in front of this body many times. We perform, we do what we say we're going to do, and so understand where you're coming from on the City Hall project. Unfortunately, I just can't speak to that today, but again, we'd be happy to follow up with any additional detail to maybe get you comfortable around that.
Hey, are you guys watching my videos, or is the GOP, Michael Paul Hart, are you watching my videos? Are you trying to compete for #1 favorite city councilor? Because listen, Bain is still my #1 city councilor, but if you're trying to get to the #1 spot, if you're trying to get to that pinnacle, that brass ring, I like what you're doing right now, and I will gladly let you guys battle it out for my love.
Separately. At least be prepared for full council, at least on what you're taking away from versus what you're getting.
Oh man, this is what I want from city councilors, by the way. This is exactly what I love, because TWG has given so much money to Hogset, and they constantly get contracts. If you want to know, just go to Twitter, TWG Development in Indianapolis, and you'll see all the projects going on, or you just go onto their website.
Additional questions? Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a sort of similar question, and this just relates to the tax abatement. Is it to help, essentially, is it needed to get the project off the ground, or is it we really want to create affordable housing, and so we're doing the tax abatement to make sure that we have an increased supply of affordable housing?
What you're probably asking is how much of our taxpayer money has to go to this thing so we can lower the cost of rent, right?
It's both. I mean, I would be, it would be incorrect to say that we don't need this abatement because we do. As the gentleman before me had mentioned, interest rates have doubled over the last 3 or 4 years. Costs are certainly not where they were pre-pandemic levels, and we've got some examples of that where we're paying significantly less for a similar type build style on the south side as we are now, and Of course, we want to add to the city's housing stock. That's, of course, the overall goal of this project. However, we need the tax abatement to, I guess, spur us and help kick us off into this process and to get it out of the ground.
Yeah, but you could still get it fired up for 2 years. Okay, well, maybe.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Additional questions?
I
comments
think
from
it's a
council?
big old switcheroo person. It's like, hey, if you give us a tax abatement, we can lower the price of rent, subsidize that rent, baby.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Leader Lewis. I just wanted to comment, I for one appreciate the work that TWG has been doing around the city. You guys seem to be the most, the strongest company investing in this city, building housing, and
Investing. Listen, they're getting money from the city.
it's appreciated from my perspective and standpoint.
Oh.
As I was looking through, catching up here real quick on some of the other projects that you've done, and just in the past year, you're taking some dilapidated areas, and even though this is an 80% tax abatement going towards you, you're still increasing the revenue that the city is going to make up in that time period. And I just wanted to clarify that for the audience and people that are going to be there. This is still more tax revenue than what is currently being utilized. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's being funded by taxpayers, and Jared Evans is just being a shill. And it's funny because I was just starting to look up everybody's campaign report, and guess what I found? Oh, look at that. Jared Evans got $1,000 from TWG Development. So it's no wonder that he's deciding to fondle the testicles of TWG and has no problem taking a load right in the fucking throat. Like I've said so many times, these people do not have a soul. They will gladly take your money as little as $1,000 or $500, and they'll just spit out whatever crap you want them to, because people like Jared Evans, people like Justin Moed, and the Jessica McCormick or Carlino or Colonel Gibson over here, they have no problem selling their soul to the highest bidder.
Thank you for that, Council.
But just remember, TWG has Jared Evans in their pockets.
Yep, thank you, Councilor Evans. Additional comments? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to Proposal 204? Seeing none, I entertain a motion. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to send Proposal 204, 2024 to the full council with the due pass recommendation, and I so move.
Is there a second?
By the way, this is why Bowie's Public Affairs and all the unions the unions do not give money to Republicans at all. If you go through these people's campaign reports, you will see like Firefighters 416 and the Pipe Fitters Union and Steel Workers and whatever. They'll give money to these clowns all day. They'll never give it to Republicans because they have too much integrity, honestly. And this is why, like, Bowie's Public Affairs won't give me any money because Justin Moed is the perfect puppet for them.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you all.
The next item on our agenda is Proposal 205, amends the code to add Chapter 852, Indianapolis Short-Term Rental Permit Program.
Oh boy, I can't wait for this one.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to speak on a moment about this proposal, Proposal 205. This proposal came from many years of constituent advocacy.
Oh, look, the kids!
Some
Look, the
here
kids
tonight
there
who
messing
deserve the
around.
credit for this. This came from working together with the city, with law enforcement.
Listen, if you're going to be an elected politician, you need to get your family stuff in order.
But the constituents, they had a real need. This came from our neighborhoods who were crying out for some help from us as a council.
Ask those neighbors who they voted for. Did they vote for Ryan Mears? Did they vote for Hogsett?
And we had some boundaries from some state laws, So we did what we could with the state laws, but our neighborhoods were persistent, and we persevered. And I just wanted to thank our constituents who kept at it.
This is why these people don't want to have a debate with me. Kristen Jones, Moed, every single person in Marion County does not want to have a debate with me because I will completely destroy them.
They never gave up, even though there was some time delays. They never gave up. And this proposal tonight, it's not about taking rights away. Many, many of these Airbnbs are owned by out-of-state, non-existent landlords who don't respond. And this is simply about providing a registry and a permitting process. And that's all that we're asking for tonight, so that when there's an issue, that our neighbors and our constituents can find that person to call. So IMPD doesn't spend 3 to 5 hours looking for the person who's responsible. I want to thank Director Brands. She worked relentlessly helping us with our software and to get that up and running so that we can get to this point.
You could literally just make an Excel spreadsheet with it. Here's the address, here's the name. You could use Google Sheets, but no, we gotta have this $1 million software to get this off the ground. You guys are just so freaking stupid and lazy. I would love to be mayor of Indianapolis. I would have that whole place fixed up in a year.
Appreciate her and her team very, very much. And for my constituents, they're going to talk tonight about why this is important and why this is a quality of life issue for them.
Okay.
This is their home. They want to feel safe.
Who did they vote for,
the
Kristen?
rentals and the folks who come into Indianapolis and to visit, they want to feel safe as well, right? We're a great city.
Yep.
We want to be a welcoming place. We want to be safe
Oh, really?
for them as well.
Oh, really? You know, it's super funny. I've been yelled at by so many times in the last few months, particularly in one neighborhood. You want to know what neighborhood that is? Garfield Park. The same people that have signs in their front yard that say, all welcome here, except for a guy who's running for office. And when I have a door hanger that says, I want to reduce your property taxes, they get so mad about that. Just because I have that R in front of my name. Not any of my other platforms, just because of that R. And Kristen Jones and all of Garfield Park need to take a lesson. They need to stop being hypocrites and saying it's like, oh no, we're totally inclusive. Wrong. No, you're not. Not at all.
So we feel like this is a great place to start, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to please vote yes. We feel like this is a great place to start. It's simply a registry and a permitting process. And
Yeah,
this is what
that
my
will do
constituents
nothing.
and the city, not just mine, but the residents of Marion County have asked of us. So I'm asking you to vote yes.
I actually hate short-term rentals. I hate Airbnb. I don't like any of those things.
Listen to some folks here tonight who would like to speak.
Thank you, Councilor Jones.
I think they ruin communities.
If you're here to speak on Proposal 205, please come forward. State your name.
All right. Just to let you know.
Oh.
Just to let you know.
That's what I thought. There's not a. So, councilors, that was your presentation. Councilor Jones, I'm sorry, I thought that there was someone else that was coming up to speak, and so Councilor Jones actually made the presentation from you. Madam Council, you have something to add? Madam Council, do you have something to add? You look like you have some.
I did. I just wanted to remind Councilor Jones to amend her proposal. The amendment for the proposal.
The fuck?
Sorry, Madam
No,
Clerk.
that chick looks like Jenna Ortega. Hold on.
So there's an amendment to Proposal 2. I'm sorry, I thought that there was someone else that was coming.
To amend her proposal.
Yo.
The amendment for the proposal.
This woman, doesn't she? Hold on, look what she looks up. She kind of looks like Jenna Ortega, right? Without the Addams Family Wednesday makeup on there. She looks like
Sorry, Madam
her
Clerk.
face melted off.
So there's an amendment to Proposal 205. Is that correct, Madam Council?
Yes, but
Okay.
you can take comments while she's pulling it up.
Okay. And so just a reminder, you all will have 2 minutes to speak. If the person in front of you says something that you were going to say, feel free to say what she said. It is very appropriate to say that at this point. Floor is yours.
Boy, I can't wait to hear the comments. I'm sure.
Madam Chair Lewis and fellow councilors, my name is Judith Essex, and I live in the Old South Side. And I just want to say thank you, TWG, for investing in the Old South Side. But now, about short-term rentals. I know that all of you have had multiple calls from your constituents over the years of all the issues that we've been dealing with in our neighborhoods. And we decided in, I think it was November of 2022, that maybe as a group we really needed to do something. And some of us attended the housing task force that was called at the legislature, and it was about the housing stock shortage. And so some of us went to those meetings to try to impress upon the legislature that maybe short-term rentals might be contributing a little bit to that shortage. They did not come to that conclusion.
Really? Well, I want to know which legislator
But
said that.
we moved on, and we decided
I do
what
agree
we
with
really
that.
needed to do was to start with the city and get an ordinance in place. And what I'm giving you here is just a history of where we've been and what we've done. And so in November, there was a meeting of the downtown neighborhoods, and there were 9 neighborhoods at that meeting. And we decided at that point that the next meeting should be with the city. That was on January 4th, and you guys, you would be so proud because every one of your deputy mayors were there, every one of them, and several councilors, state reps, and a senator. It was well turned out, and I think that we were able to really start talking about what was needed as far as a short-term rental. Then in May, we had our final meeting to finalize things.
Running out of
Councilor
time,
Jones
lady.
chaired that meeting along with Detective Boomershine, thank you. And we at that point had come in the next 2 minutes. So thank you very much for keeping this process going. We went through a budget and an election, and there was a delay, but here we are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dakota Pulicki. I'm the president of the Fountain Square Neighborhood Association, along with Judith, the co-founder of the Coalition to Address Short-Term Rentals, and that's my time. Thank you.
Sorry.
All good.
Okay.
As Councilor Jones mentioned, we created our coalition to address short-term rentals out of a clear community need. We were first approached by residents who had shots fired through their house while they were asleep at night, a mere foot of bed above their heads while they were sleeping. On more than one occasion, residents have had to spend thousands of dollars hiring attorneys to take civil action against short-term rental owners and operators for things like property infringement, theft, and vandalism. Even now, the need's growing. You might all be aware that last weekend there was a shooting at a short-term rental property at 1514 Lexington. 2 people were shot in the early hours of the morning. Police were notified but didn't get there in time to break up the party and only had to respond to that. What's worse is that that property is actually characteristic of others our coalition seeks to address. They're operated by negligent owners and operators. The property had already been removed from Airbnb, is now removed by Verbo, but there was still blood in the streets that had yet to be cleaned up, and they had already reposted it on their own website for a rental again.
Damn.
We've heard from city agencies, first responders, this immense frustration that there's no tracking mechanism. There's no way to know if a property is a short-term rental. No enforcement or regulation for these properties that are routinely mismanaged. So our coalition responded. We created some data tracking reports. Anyone can go to shorttermrentalreport.com to report an issue. We've gathered 137 reports of problematic short-term rental properties in just an 18-month period. Over 70% of these reports are for partying and safety issues. Many others cite maintenance and parking problems. But the data confirmed that we had a problem. It confirmed another hunch we had, which is while there are many responsible local owners and operators of short-term rentals, the majority of these problems are actually coming from a handful of bad actors. Many of these are owned by out-of-state investment groups or owners that don't live in the residents here in the county. Even the Lexington property is actually owned and operated by someone living in Fort Wayne. Only 26 properties account for over 70% of the 137 reports that we've received. We need better tools to protect our communities. We need tools that prevent people who don't live in this community, let alone state, from financially benefiting from making our communities unsafe. We need tools to stop and restrict these habitually negligent owners. We're all in favor of this proposal. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tom Mobile. I live at 781 Woodard Place, Middle Drive, Indianapolis 46201. I've lived in Marion County since 1971. I've lived in the historic district since 1986, and I'm currently president of Historic Urban Neighborhoods of Indianapolis, known more broadly by its acronym HUNI. HUNI is a coalition of neighborhoods including all of the downtown historic districts, and I appreciate this bill being, or this ordinance being proposed. We are totally in support of it. It's unfortunate the state law is so restrictive in terms of what can be included in an ordinance, but this is a good start. So I hope you will pass this on for passage at the next City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matt Swickheimer. I'm an Old Southside resident. I'm also an Airbnb superhost. I've been on the platform for 12 years. My Airbnb is my primary residence. I'm a flight attendant, so it's my side hustle, as you will. It's very important to me.
What are you clapping
It's
for?
a third of my income now at this point. So protecting me as a homeowner and protecting my investment in my neighborhood is important to me, but I totally propose that this proposal should be voted for, and I'm in favor of it because of the bad players that have been brought up. And I'm definitely not one of the bad players. My house is my investment, and I basically bid trips to fly when people want to stay in my home. So I'm the original Airbnb, so to speak, and it's morphed into this where I have to explain to people that it is my house, and people are like, someone lives here, and it's kind of shocking when guests show up at my house and they're like, wow, someone lives here, his clothes are here. I'm like, yeah, that's Airbnb, that's how it started. So I'm totally in favor.
Thank you.
I actually, I have to agree with this guy. I am okay with the people that Airbnb their actual home instead of having rental properties do it. Oh boy.
Hi, my name is Andy Fark.
Andy
as
Fark?
Dakota previously mentioned, the 1514 Lexington Avenue property. The weekend of July 6th, I heard 4 shots go off. I called 911. I looked out my window. I got to see my first person get shot.
Really? First time? Dude, I'm from Chicago. There's a daily
Not a
thing.
fun thing.
Ugh.
Units were called to that house 4 times throughout that entire weekend. It was the same group of partiers. Whole thing.
I bet this guy
This
plays
happened
with
on
Legos.
multiple occasions. This needs to stop now. End of story.
It needs to stop. Okay, then stop voting for the same dipshits.
Good evening. My name is Chris Staub. I'm a resident of 936 North Oakland Avenue in the Near East Side. I'm also the elected president of the Near East Side Community Organization. I got my start in the community involvement with a short-term rental on my street that was a structure built in 1905 that was then carved into a 12-unit short-term rental that charged by the week. In 2004, there were 3 homicides and 2 overdoses in that particular structure. Move forward to November of 2023. Another 1915 structure, Zone D5, with 5 non-related tenants inside. One of the tenants happened to start a hot plate, which then caught fire. That then the fire spread so quick, the tenant had to jump from a 2nd floor window. The fire spread to the attic. The attic caught fire before the smoke detectors in the house alerted the other residents. This ordinance is much needed, although it falls fairly short. I would like to see the registry expanded, that it would show that there are smoke detectors in each sleeping room, that there are fire extinguishers available at each egress, that the dumpsters, even though these are commercial enterprises operating in a residential neighborhood, either have commercial trash service or extra dumpsters. One of the problems that we see is sometimes these dumpsters get overloaded with 5 tenants, and 1 dumpster per unit is not adequate. This puts a burden on the community. I'd also like to see the registry show that there are more than just street parking, that there should be on-site parking at that particular site. We've had one of these units that have actually parked 7 cars in the neighborhood, which then turns out to have a battle between the neighbors that find street parking not available for their own residents. So this is needed. but it also needs to be expanded on the registry to then protect the tenants and the community. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
He's not wrong, but you know, it's the enforcement mechanism that's going to have a problem.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kelly Murgo. I'm the president of Southeast Neighborhood Development. We are the community development corporation that serves 24 neighborhoods in Southeast Indy, some of which have already provided testimony this evening. Short-term rentals can be linked to a number of issues that we've heard: public safety first and foremost, trash, littering, excessive noise, and vandalism. Additionally, allowing more short-term rentals with no regulations in place impacts housing stabilization. The more short-term rentals that are introduced in our neighborhoods, the less opportunity we have to create permanent rental and home ownership opportunities. So while this is an ordinance that's proposed, it's not going to solve all of these issues. It is an absolute necessary first step, and provides full support to our neighborhoods and other community voices, and ask that the committee move this ordinance to full council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Short and sweet. I like it.
Hello, my name is JB Rapp. I am a local real estate developer and an Airbnb host since 2017. I'm a super host. I love what I do. My life revolves around short-term rental, 100% of it.
Gross.
I am also a container home developer. So I would like to say that I completely agree with the problem that we are trying to solve here. But what I would ask you to do, or my ask of you, is on section 852-105, it starts by saying the permitted structure types, so building to code and things of that nature, which obviously I have done. But then it says prohibited structure types, and it lists shipping container, singular, as something that will be prohibited.
You know, it's super funny. I made a video for my campaign on Facebook, and I brought that up. I was like, who would be staying in a storage container? And for some reason, I didn't even think about that people, like, I didn't know about this guy, that someone had actually made a home out of a storage container. I was thinking like someone just orders a storage container, just drops it on there, is like, see you later, kind of like a storage place.
So when I think about container homes, I think about what it is. A container is a means to an exterior of a dwelling. That is it. Everything beyond that point is built to code. We have wood framing on the inside, we have insulation, we have roofing, we have TPO, we have everything else that makes it a dwelling that would be suitable for all four seasons. And we have evidence of that. I co-host the Indy's first container home, the first one that was approved by the city to be built. It has 105 reviews, 104 5-star reviews, 1 4-star review. I think that speaks to the fact that this can be a dwelling that handles the elements well, and if not better in some ways than a standard built home. It's much stronger from the exterior. So I guess my ask of you would be to not loop in something of that nature to help solve a problem, because I don't think that that does solve a problem. And I would be asking for clarity, because if you're stating that one singular shipping container would be a problem, I do agree. That's 320 square feet. That is not enough to be considered a dwelling. If you do feel the need to continue and maybe prohibit that, I would invite you to the container home to see it and to stay there and see for yourself that it is something that holds up all four seasons.
Actually, hey, if that's invited to the public, I totally want to check that out. Like, not joking around, I totally want to check that out, because I've always had my debates on this thing, of like how it's insulated, how it can handle water management, the insulation, the electrical, because it seems like by the time that you're done with the permitting and actually getting it done, it's not much more, or it's not much less than what an actual home would cost.
Madam Chair, Madam Councilor Jones, before the next speakers come up, that was one of my questions. When we get through the speakers, do you mind speaking to that about the tiny homes? How did that come up? Was there an issue in the neighborhoods as well?
I don't think I saw a tiny home on there.
Hello, my name is Matthew Traub. I live at 3822 Brehab Road. I own a construction company called Turnaround Repairs. We focus on repairing Airbnbs on quick turns. Most of these people who own Airbnbs here are my customers. I employ over 7 people plus 4 other contractor groups. We are very busy. But I do want to say we are also hosts, and we host a substantial amount of properties within the city. Our goal is to be incredibly responsible with this, to know
Wait
what
a minute,
neighbors.
this might be Moed's thing. Wait a minute, I think. Oh, well,
I know
this guy's
all of our
speaking.
neighbors, and we are very supportive of what you're trying to do. And everyone who has something to say here, their values, their situations are valid. And I cannot invalidate any situation. But we do have questions about the way.
Yeah, he lives right next door to Moed. Because Justin Moed lives on property, and he has Airbnbs at his, but it's a little bit different because they're not in the city. It's kind of like a little camp environment thing. So this guy,
this policy is written.
interesting. Very, very
I want it to
interesting.
go forward with the registry. I'm completely supportive of that. I'm happy to do it. I do question how a fee is going to be paid when I'm managing, or not managing, I'm sorry, hosting multiple properties. We do not manage them. But also in that, as a property owner on the south side, I live on a 19-acre field, and I'm very concerned that if you're going to tell me that I'm not
I'm pretty sure that this guy works with Moed.
allowed to put small homes on my property if I'm zoned for it. That's very confusing for me. So we do question some parts of this, but we want to see it go forward, depending if we can make some adjustments to it. And I'm happy to work with you guys. I also have other things I want to bring up, like some of the great things that short-term rentals do for our market.
Yeah.
Visiting sports teams.
Okay.
Damaged homes. Where do people go? Where do families go?
Hotels.
Moving families. My sister just moved here from California.
Ugh, gross. That's oh, great. Now we have another Democrat voter. Awesome. Thanks.
My brother-in-law left 10 years of the Air Force. Cannot buy a house, but he can rent and stay in a short-term rental.
How much is an Airbnb? I'm going to find this guy right now. I'm going to find out what his Airbnb stuff is, because guess what? I pay like $600 a month, actually less than that, in my mortgage. You're telling me? Is this guy got a problem? Hey, does this Air Force guy have a problem?
Construction crews, we support union construction crews and non-union construction crews.
Yeah, this guy's definitely a Democrat.
Sports professionals, racing, swimming, soccer. Also, the last thing I'd like to say is we would be open to discussing about hosting cameras for the B-Link system.
Look, he's trying to do little mic droppers like, yeah. B-Link.
Thank you.
I'll go back to that later, but.
Hello, my name is Kyle Butler. I'm born and raised here in Indianapolis. I'm a local short-term operator and a leader of the STR Alliance. We do have plans to do certain cleanups around the city and to give back to the community. I am a respectful neighbor, and I do our best to make sure that our guests and our neighbors feel safe and sound. We do provide dozens of jobs, and we provide revenue to the city from our traveling guests, and we pay our taxes. My business model is mostly corporate leasing at apartment complexes, so I'm here to represent local hosts and let you know that we do have people here, boots on the ground, and I understand that there are a lot of out-of-state investors, but there are a lot of people here, and we do our best, and this is how we feed our families. Some of my concerns are we have several rentals at our apartments, but we need to pay for each unit at the same building. This would be very costly for a small family local-owned business. And as the proposal stands, it looks like we will need to get owners of the apartment complexes involved. That might be something. We usually just work with the building management. So speaking with those owners of apartment complexes could be pretty complex in our business model. So,
womp.
So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
By the way, for people like him, where they're part of that whole thing, renting it out apartment units. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of empathy or sympathy for that kind of crap. Like, you know what you signed up for. You know that this is a business, and not only that, but then you have these people that took away units from other people that need to stay there, like actually live there, and now you've you've really messed up the market. And like that other guy that's on like the 19 acres, he doesn't really count. His not all rules apply to him.
Hello, my name is Jim Borthwick. I have born and raised here in Indianapolis. I've been on the Airbnb platform since 2011. And like Kyle and Carly, I'm one of the leaders of the Indiana State
Short-Term Rental Alliance.
State.
This has been a topic that I've been happy to speak on since the first state legislation came about in 2007 and 8 with House Bill 1035. And I, like many of my hosts, are very encouraged to see continual positive discussions on a citywide level. We are for registry. I think permits are very comparable for other markets like ours. And I think that a lot of our general consensus, we want to be good neighbors. We understand that all of the problems that have been presented by prior speakers are completely valid, and we want to be a part of the solution. And I feel like collectively we agree on more than we disagree. Like a lot of my previous speakers, I do have some concerns about some vagueness when it comes to tiny houses and container houses. I would like some further clarification on that. And I also want to just highlight again that a lot of these problems that we are seeing, we want to be a part of the discussion. Oftentimes, when we have our meetup groups, we have about 500 people that are registered on our Alliance group, and we host different meetups throughout the community. We would like to have some of our community members or community leaders be a part of those. Sometimes we hear about these meetings that are happening is very much after the fact, and we're kind of shoehorned in. We want to be a part of the solution. We often talk about how to get rid of bad hatters. Getting rid of whether it's limiting out-of-state operators, limiting the night restrictions. Like a lot of these problems we see are for one-night minimum parties for out-of-state actors. I don't see any verbiage that's speaking to that. I see things about tiny houses or small modular container houses that are really not a part of statistically all the problems you see in the news. So all in all, I just want to reemphasize what has been said before. In fact, we are for a lot of these things. We would just like some further clarification on some of the verbiage and the proposal. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa DeRozier. I am an Indianapolis resident and have multiple short-term rentals, one of which is in Speedway, Indiana, and they have already adopted a permit program. We've been happy to go by those rules and sign up for our permit. Everything has been going smoothly with that process. I'm sure you've looked at that process and are kind of adopting these rules based off their processes. Our concerns are about the structures and types that are listed in the requirements, and would ask for more clarity and to review those so that we can have better definition on what those are about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Guy East. I'm a local resident, property owner, and Airbnb host. My wife and I have been operating short-term rentals for 6 years. We have hosted thousands of guests as they come to visit our city. Airbnb has become a major part of our lives, and I take great pride in being a host. I get to showcase the beautiful city, earn an income, and improve our neighborhoods. As a former resident of San Diego, California, I led a coalition of Airbnb hosts to collaborate with the City Council to devise a plan that would ensure the safety of our neighborhoods while protecting the short-term rental industry. Now, as a resident of Indiana, I'd like to do the same here. Indianapolis was named the #1 travel destination worldwide for Airbnb in 2024. Indy has done a fantastic job hosting events that showcase our city. As a top travel destination, Airbnb properties have taken off, and outside investors, as have already been mentioned, has bought large blocks of homes in our neighborhoods. And more often than not, these investors don't know what's going on at their properties, and they don't care as much about our neighborhoods, and they're not able to handle the issues when disturbances arise. As our city continues to attract tourists, the problem is only going to get worse, and the proposed ordinance is not enough to prevent bad actors. More and more Airbnbs are going to appear around our city as out-of-state investors buy up the properties and convert them to short-term rentals.
Yeah.
As local Airbnb hosts and residents who care about our city, I don't believe the problematic properties are owned by locals, but as has already been discussed, out-of-state investors.
Yeah.
I would like to propose a more detailed framework than what is already before the council. I worked with the city of Chula Vista to craft the following guidelines, and I feel like a more balanced approach solution could work here. I believe that #1, short-term rentals should only be owned by residents of Indiana. Local residents are more inclined to care about the betterment of our community. We can vet our guests and ensure that no suspicious activities due to the proximity of our properties. I believe that we should adopt a 3 strikes and you're out policy. Minimum stays of 2 nights or more to prevent parties. #4, occupancy maximum of 14 guests.
That's still a lot.
5, permitting. 6, rules posted as to the house, a good neighbor policy with quiet hours, and owners or managers Phone numbers should be available in the event of a disturbance. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what's funny? I had actually proposed this to the people of Garfield Park. I started mentioning something like this, and they're like, we don't want any restrictions on people buying things. That's exactly what I was told. And Garfield Park was the only group of people that had a problem with what this guy said, because I was indicating of what I wanted to do. I thought there should be restrictions on out-of-state investors or out-of-state people buying up these homes, and they did not want any part of that. So I had made a tweet about this a week or so ago because I had gotten yelled at by somebody in Garfield Park about my door hanger, mostly because I put my door hanger on their doorknob. And so I have come to the conclusion that Garfield Park does not want lower property taxes. They want out-of-state people snatching up all their homes. They're not a big fan of public safety, and they're definitely not a big fan of road repair. Everybody else that I've talked to in all the other neighborhoods, Drexel Gardens, West Side, Rockville people, what was there, Fletcher Place, like they all have a problem with the short-term rental stuff, and they want regulations on it, but not Garfield Park for some really weird reason. But if a Republican were to say, "Oh, we need to have regulations on it," it's guaranteed Democrats would say, "Oh, you mean this? I thought you were this party of small government, blah blah blah." And every time somebody says that, I'm like, "Okay, so you don't want this problem fixed? I just want to make sure you do not want this problem fixed. You just want to bitch." So every time somebody says that, there's your rebuttal. One more.
My name's J.D. Holly. I'm a property owner downtown that has been for 5 years doing Airbnbs.
It's like Jim Irsay.
I want to second what JB said about the container homes. I'm developing one also that's just about complete.
Great.
Went through Regional Center, went through Homeland Security, went through the city, went through structural reviews. And so I think that has to be clarified in the type of structure you're talking about. These properties are worth a lot of money. They host, and if you manage them right, I think there would be no problem. I agree with the ordinance. I think it's fine, but it has to be fine-tuned.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to Proposal 205? Councilor Jones, if you would respond to a couple of those questions, our Director Brand. Thank you.
Who's laughing?
Hi, everyone. Abby Brands, Director for the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services.
Abby
I'm
Baddies,
talking
more
to
like
Amy
it.
Wonders here, who knows far more about this topic than I do, but I will attempt to answer. So essentially, there are a lot of pieces to the ordinance as far as like what we request, the three strikes you're out rule, things like that, that were mandated by the state. This ordinance is essentially written within the shell of what we are allowed to do based on state statute related to short-term rentals. As far as shipping containers, we at BNS typically aren't putting ordinances forth. We're typically enforcing them for our peer departments. And so we took this to the city prosecutor's office and to DMD planning, and both recommended that that language stays in place. That is not to say that this rules out shipping containers that are being used as a construction material. If that's the case, they are receiving that state building code variance, and they're going through all the processes, and they're being constructed into a house. And from a licensing standpoint, we would have no idea that it's a shipping container by the time that license is being issued, right? So this is more related to people using RVs and temporary structures and dropping a shipping container on a plot of land. Because we restrict those heavily within the zoning ordinance, we obviously we wanted to extend that to this ordinance as well.
Was there,
She's
my
single
question
too,
was, were there
fellas.
a lot of complaints? Did you hear that from residents that that was actually an issue, or is just city legal thought that it was important that we include it?
Yeah.
I can answer that, Madam Chair. RVs we have an issue at least in my district that I heard numerous
Mars
complaints
Hill,
about,
for
was
sure.
folks were living in RVs permanently. So I get that at least weekly, that I have to send a complaint or somebody reaches out to me. So to determining whether somebody is renting an RV or they're living in that RV. So RVs were, and so we were talking about the enforcement aspect. So dealing with the city prosecutor and dealing with Office of Corporation Counsel, it was an enforcement issue. What is a rental versus they're living in an RV parked on the road, parked in someone's driveway. So we were trying to differentiate that.
Thank
So
you.
yes, I get a lot of those complaints.
Thank you.
Want me to stay? Okay, I'll stay.
So back to what that guy was saying, that how his brother-in-law or brother has to stay in an Airbnb because he can't afford a home. So I'm checking this right now, an Airbnb in Indianapolis, and I think I think I saw one in Beech Grove for like $33 or something. I can't find the other one where he's at on Brehab, but like even if you were to say $33 a night for 30 days, it's still like $900 a month, which in reality, you can still buy a home. Your mortgage is still going to be significantly less than what it would be for an Airbnb in Beech Grove for a month, and most of these are more than that, 43, 45. Edgewood's 59. I mean, most of these are like $100 or more. It's honestly not much different than a hotel room. I don't understand the whole Airbnb thing. I've stayed at them before. I've stayed at one before in Arizona, and I was like, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, Councilor Gibson.
Director Brands, I just want to confirm, I guess, about the shipping container. So you're saying that if you use a shipping container but add on to this to build that process, that's covered up on the permit process. But if someone actually wanted to use a shipping container in of itself by itself, that's what you're saying is not.
Correct, yes. So we've had people build shipping containers homes in the city, and they've received those state variances for the building code and gone through all the appropriate processes.
Because they had other
to do
stuff
so.
added on to the container, right, to make it really insulated and all that good stuff. And
Correct,
I guess, okay, that makes sense. Is there any existing, container homes in Indianapolis period of that model? They would never match. They would never make code, correct?
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, without this.
No, so we
Yeah.
only permitted if they also receive those additional.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
anything, a shipping container of itself as a housing is not permitted in Indianapolis.
Until they receive those additional approvals.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, what about the mini houses? I heard that comment.
The tiny homes?
Is that the same thing, or because it seemed like mini houses would be an actual construction process?
I don't believe that tiny homes are listed in the
Tiny homes.
restrictions.
Yeah, they're not even
Yes,
listed.
okay.
Tiny homes aren't listed in
I
the
heard
restrictions.
a couple people say something
ordinance.
about tiny homes. I just want to make sure.
It's temporary vehicles, RVs, motorhomes, shipping containers.
Thank you
That's
for
what I
that.
can remember.
And then also, the gentleman bring up a good point about the fees. Can you speak to the question, the comment about, I guess the same owner being taxed with the fees could be costly?
Yeah, so by state statute, we are allowed to charge a $150 application fee, and then we are allowed to charge nothing else. So we are abiding by what the state has allowed us to do. As you can imagine, there is going to be an administrative burden for this program, and we're only able to collect revenue once, and yet we will continue having to process these applications annually and facilitating any complaints or things like that annually as well.
Okay. And you guys are up to the part to take on the administrative burden?
I believe so, yes.
All right, thank you,
Our
Director.
licensing team is ready.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Councilor Evans.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. So it's a one-time fee.
Correct.
$150.
Going back to the shipping containers, just want to make sure it's clear.
Okay.
So for the audience, people watching TV, if one of these individuals is purchasing a shipping container, putting it on a piece of land, and then renovating that container to be a housing structure within our permit process that is already current, they're good to go.
If they are using it as a construction material and obtaining all the appropriate variances from state building code and the appropriate permits from us, yes.
Okay, so it's not an issue. Moving on, you talk about state statute, and I think that's where it gets really confusing for the public, because we can't just make all the laws. We have to work within the parameters that the state gives us, and there's a lot of nuances there. Minimum stays was mentioned, and I actually think that's a really great idea. Is that something, or that might be for our legal, is that something that's possible within the ordinance?
Shut up, Jared. So I just did a little chat GPT on this. As of 2024, Indianapolis has approximately 5,576 short-term rental listings across platforms of Vrbo, Airbnb, Rent Cafe, whatever. So even if that one-time fee, it would be $836,000 from because of the 5,500 and the one-time fee. You know, that's a lot of money. I think Rob Kendall talked about this last week too, where it's like it's just a money grab. I think that's part of it. I think they're having to pay for this administration or for somebody to track the whole thing, so that's how they're going to get their fee. And really, what is it like? $12.50 a month overall, $150 a one-time fee too for a year. I mean, it's really nothing in the big scheme of things.
It is not.
Say again.
It is not possible. We can
Okay.
only have a registry charge the fee and then enforce our current ordinances against short-term rental the way we do against any other property.
Okay. And then can you speak to any differences from this ordinance from Speedway's ordinance?
Ooh, I cannot.
Anything specific that stands out?
What is, you might be able to better answer that question than I can.
And I ask that because I know theirs to be widely accepted.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Amy Wonder, as Director Brands mentioned, I'm a Deputy Director with Business and Neighborhood Services. I'm not prepared to speak to the exact differences between their ordinance language and ours. I do know that after we consulted with city legal and council attorneys, we determined that while we do recognize that there are significant differences between their ordinance language and ours aligns more directly with the state statute.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely.
Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a lot of notes here, and I'll try and be as succinct as possible. The first one goes towards the fee, which, I mean, it was mentioned as a one-time fee, but I just want to remind everybody here that these properties wouldn't be the homeowner, from primarily the houses in question here aren't the actual homeowners, right? We're talking about out-of-state people. Those folks are paying property tax just as much, and they're paying at a higher rate than the homeowners. They don't have a homestead exemption on those. So they will continue to pay, just not in the sense of a fee. But when I listened to everybody today, it was really interesting, you know, and I really wanted to hear what the impetus was for the purpose of bringing forth this proposal when really wanting to get that point across. And to me, what I heard was it was partying. That's what I really heard was the issue that I related to shootings and violence and congregation of groups, in which, if that's the case, why aren't we here talking about a permit to party, which it would be silly. We wouldn't do that, which I kind of feel the same thing about this proposal, primarily for the reason that we have, I think, what everybody is already asking for to an extent and could be modified, which is a registry of rental owners. We passed that a couple years ago on this council. You know, my pushback to this committee and to this proposal would be scrap this. It doesn't look like it's been fully thought out when we've got, you know, conversations happening about container homes and things of that nature. We've got
Michael Paul
two-way
Hart with the
conversation on the
fire.
fees, which I don't think are necessary. Just because you
Hey, I
can
like
do
it.
something from the state doesn't mean we need to
I
or
don't
should do
particularly
something
agree with it,
from
but
the
I do
state.
like his
But when
motivation.
it comes to quality of life and if partying is the issue and we want to know who owns that house and we want to get in contact with that person, I mean, simply expanding the registry of what we currently have can solve that problem.
That's kind of what we're doing.
And so, I mean, if we are going to move this thing forward today, I would, and I'm not making the motion now, but I would absolutely appreciate the opportunity to motion to remove the shipping containers from this if we don't postpone this. But I do have a part of me that would thinks that this does need postponed to at least one more month to fully vet out some of these concerns that we've heard today as well.
Councilor Barth.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know there's an amendment yet to come, but I want to start just by commenting on how much I appreciate Councilor Jones taking this issue on. This is a very significant problem in the city. It's rewarding and satisfying to see so many responsible short-term rental owners here, and the fact that they are here and that they're engaged in the process and they largely support the concept here, I think says a lot about them and their presence and that they're local is all great. One of the challenges, I think, to Councilor Hart's comment is that I don't know the exact percentage, but I can tell you in my district, I've had repeated problems with short-term rentals that are distinctly due to out-of-state investors who do not care about our neighborhoods and expressly take advantage and sometimes, I would say, prey on our neighborhoods. And I can just give you one anecdote that happened at about 43rd and College, where a Airbnb host was routinely renting out his location for for-profit parties. This was the only house on the block that was a short-term rental, and it was routinely being used for for-profit parties. The long-term homeowners would be sitting on their porch, and all of a sudden they would see a swarm of cars approach with people running into the house carrying large bottles of alcohol. And then on one particular night where I met them the next morning, people were bringing in guns, long guns that they were carrying. In the backyard, they said, turned into essentially a club within an hour of this happening.
Was it the Amish?
And there were multiple bullets discharged. And so I got involved. I started reaching out to the host myself. He answered one email to me and said he didn't think it would be productive to have a discussion with me about the concerns of the neighbors in this instance when this house was being used as a for-profit party house, and that there were bullets discharged next door to where my constituents lived and their child was being raised. So that's a big example of a consistent problem that's been low boiling since I returned to the council in 2020. I can give you examples in Broad Ripple just this week where a short-term rental for the third time has resulted in the IMPD coming to another stable neighborhood where the only house on the block is the only rental is a short-term rental, and the parties have resulted in the IMPD having to come and this time got guns being discharged. Same thing, Rocky Ripple has experienced this as well. So this is not an isolated issue. I think Councilor Jones is feeling a lot of it because there's a lot of development in her area, but this is a problem that screams out for action. And I would love to take more significant action. I think the suggestions that have been made are meaningful and useful and would help us manage this issue better. But to the point that we've all noted, we can only function within the parameters that the General Assembly allows us to function. And so again, back to my first comment, Councilor Jones has carefully and intentionally managed this process, and you can see she's working
Dude, just Yappersville. Jeez, no wonder this video is 3 hours long.
Seeing them all come here today is meaningful, and I think it demonstrates the fact that there's an issue and that this is the best solution we can put forward given the parameters that we are living within. So with all that, it's just to say I robustly support this. I think Councilor Jones has done a great job. The neighbors have done a great job working carefully with the city, and I'd love to go on it as a co-sponsor, Councilor Jones, if you'll have me.
Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to take the opportunity to talk about out-of-state investors for a moment. That was brought up, and I do not deny that that is an issue, and it absolutely is, both on the residential and commercial side of the house. I can't tell you how many times I send emails and text messages to BNS, and I have concerns about these same things. But unfortunately, what the reality is it doesn't help solve the problem any faster. I mean, it takes years. I've been in conversations for years on certain owners that are out of state and have caused issues within my district, and we know who it is. So just as much as it is nice to have that information, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem.
It's true. 100%. I 100% agree with what he just said. The root cause is the out-of-state people, the people that own these homes. I literally just saw an article of this guy saying, he's like, yeah, I own 15,000 homes. I don't have a problem with that. It's just like, it's just the worst, really.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to amend Proposal 205-2024 by deleting the double-stricken language and adding the double underlined language in the highlighted portions of the amendment. Everyone should have a copy, so I will briefly review the changes. The first change is to Section 852-107 pertaining to the short-term rental permit fund. It has been deleted and replaced with a provision saying that the short-term rental fees collected are to be deposited into the Consolidated County General Fund. This modification was requested by BNS and OFM to ensure that these permit fees are handled in a manner similar to others. The next change just corrects a typo to the penalties and enforcement sections, changing 107 to 108. The next change added the short-term rental fees to the list of fees and Rev Code Sections 103-501, Schedule of License and Permit Fees. The final change adds an effective date of January 1st, 2025. This change is being made to accommodate the needed upgrades to BNS software. And I so move.
On the amendment, are there questions, comments regarding the amendment?
I think it's almost.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Leader. I would like to make a motion to amend this proposal to remove any language that has to do with shipping containers.
The motion has been properly moved in second. Are there comments regarding the motion on the floor?
Just as a reminder, any motion that hasn't been provided in writing will table this proposal.
We can't entertain it?
You can entertain it, but it'll table the proposal to the next meeting.
Okay. Oh, table it to the next meeting. Okay. Thank you, Madam Counsel. Comments regarding the motion on the floor?
Rand Delaney's like, I don't know about that.
Thank you. Can I clarify that point, Counsel? You're saying if this amendment passes,
which it won't,
automatically tables or postpones the overall proposal that we're discussing?
Till the next meeting.
The proposal will be tabled until the next meeting.
It's not tabled, it's postponed to the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Like
So, just to be clear, if a yes vote not only makes a change, but it also forces a delay in consideration of this. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Got it. Councilor Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the city's been quite clear what shipping containers mean. I think it's designed by a permit process, so I would encourage my colleagues to vote against the amendment.
Yep, Councilor Hart.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd actually like to tell a quick story about something I've experienced in your district, Councilor Gibson, at a site. I do. I like to hang out there every now and then. So it was at the old KIPP Academy, actually, that building over there, and I toured that with old Deputy Mayor Bennett, who used to be the trustee over in Warren Township, area I represent. And one of the suggestions he made to help us find capital funding for that area was to propose shipping container type development for senior housing. And so it is a type of serious development that is used and is practical in the city of Indianapolis. And we've had people here speaking with us this evening that are telling us they are continuing to use it. And it's not like dropping a container on a building. They look like actual buildings. And so I would like for you to consider that this evening as well, that it's beyond what you're probably thinking of, just an old container sitting on a lot. These actually do look like homes and buildings and are completely livable. And I would like you to consider that when making a vote this evening on removing this language.
Leader Mowry.
Thank you, Madam Leader. I'm getting a little jumbled here on this whole shipping container debacle.
I can't believe we're spending so much time on the shipping container thing.
Are we talking about a shipping container comes off the back of a truck, it's set onto the ground, and they can't have that? If the shipping container comes off the back of a truck, it's insulated, it's built out to be an actual dwelling, then it's permitted? Yes. Okay, so the gentleman over here that had the question about the shipping container, his residence would be okay?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. We don't even need the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Leader. I think that the Bluff Road Reconstruction Project has been taken over by shipping containers from my colleagues that have bared with us the last few months. But
that's pretty
anyway,
good, actually. That is pretty funny.
Motion, and I will support the motion that Councilor Hart made. But given the fact that it would postpone it, should the motion fail, I would support this proposal after the vote.
Additional comments from councilors regarding the motion? Is there anyone? Madam Counsel, yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, it's my understanding that the reason the city prosecutor wanted that language to remain in was so that it could be uniformly enforced across different types of zoning areas. And this is
Brands
what's
is agreeing with it.
enforced in other areas. So they're going to enforce the no shipping container the same way they would enforce it anywhere else. It's just if it's a short-term rental.
Why does it
it's
look
gonna get
like
the
her
same
face is
enforcement as it would
melting?
If it's not a short-term rental.
Like a candle
So if you can build
that's
it,
getting
and it's
too hot.
I think they called it a built structure, then it'll be fine, but anywhere else, if you just drop it there, then it's gonna be enforced the same way. And taking it out would then have us not enforcing this ordinance the way we do in
Hey,
other.
Goth Batty.
Thank you, Madam Council. So, additional comments regarding the motion on the floor from councilors. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the motion on the floor? Is that our colleague? Okay. He's one of us. Hey.
Good evening, y'all.
Oh my God.
This shirt's really small on me, and so I didn't want to sit up there and have everybody look at it.
Do you think the insecurity coming from this guy? I didn't know how my shirt was gonna look in front of you guys, so I didn't want to sit over there. No, you just look like a slob.
But I did want to quickly
And
say,
you smell.
I support this proposal, would like to be added as a co-sponsor, and do not like this amendment because it would delay one more month, something that has been intolerable for many of my constituents. We wanted this language in January. We wanted this language before I was elected.
This guy wearing
and so
this guy has a mask with him. Jeez, nobody could see this shirt anyway, you dummy.
I would encourage us to ignore this amendment, pass this tonight. Thank you.
Jeez, his voice is all messed up from taking too much of that ketamine.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to the motion on the floor? Counselor Evans, is your hand up?
No, I've talked about shipping containers long enough.
It's
All
true.
those in favor
It
of
is true.
the amendment on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. We're going to have to do a hand vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by raising your hand. Madam Clerk, do a count.
3.
Those opposed, same sign.
Cahill,
The motion fails.
you traitor.
Additional comments regarding the proposal. Counselor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was hoping that either our sponsor, Councilor Jones, or staff could talk about what happens if you don't register or if a permit gets revoked, like that whole, the enforcement part of this ordinance, and how that works.
Thought we were so close to the end.
Okay, so by state statute, we are only allowed to enforce this if there are 3 ordinance violations. IMPD is aware of this ordinance and those enforcement capabilities because they are the ones that are typically enforcing nuisances of that nature. And so that will be kind of a reconciliation between BNS and IMPD to understand which of these properties they're regularly enforcing. If a permit is revoked by state statute, we are allowed to revoke it. I believe the appeal process follows our same board process. Those individuals are allowed to apply the following year. And if somebody does not apply, I believe it is a Class C infraction based on state statute that would be enforced by IMPD.
And how will the short-term rental owners know that they need to apply for this? Like, how does that happen and start?
I think the idea is similar to landlord registry in that we're working to educate and get the word out. We're still in the process of building the permit type because it is a little intricate and that we're only charging the fee once, but not in subsequent years. So that kind of logic has to be built in. And so we have some time. This doesn't go into effect until the beginning of next year because of that. And so we do have some time to educate individuals and owners.
And so if your permit gets revoked, you're no longer allowed to use your dwelling for short-term rental?
So this ordinance only impacts non-owner occupied. We are not allowed to regulate owner-occupied units, so this is non-owner occupied only. If your license is revoked, you are not allowed to have it for the rest of the year, and then you are able to apply the next year per state statute.
That's not bad. I like it. I like it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Brands.
Hey, I like that.
Madam Director, one last question, sorry.
You're fine.
So this proposal, does it make unique stays illegal in the city of Indianapolis? And if so, is that the direction that we're going, and how does that jive with your friends at the other end of Market?
I don't think so. Again, I don't want to bring up shipping containers again, but Leader Mowry, summed it up pretty well in that if a shipping container is just dropped, that's not allowed in zoning ordinance, so it's not allowed. If it's used as a construction material, it's allowed. If you have a residence that has been appropriately built and permitted and received any variances or anything of that nature by state statute, it is allowed to be a dwelling by state statute and by our zoning code, and therefore would be allowed. So I think unique stays like RVs or things like that, those are not allowed within our zoning ordinance.
The short-term rentals, that's what those are, like the Airbnbs, that's what they're for, right, are unique stays. So my question is, and maybe I'm making this way too simple.
No, I think you're just not asking it right.
Simply, that's what this is set up for, unique stays. My question is, does it now make it, with that language, does it make it illegal for the Airbnbs to exist in our city?
No.
It does not, no.
Okay.
No.
Again, I know you do your homework. Do you feel like this language is not going to conflict with anything that's happening, again, at the other end of Market?
What's on the other end of
No,
Market?
this abides by what's in state statute and what's within our zoning ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Evans.
Thank you, Leader. Director, in the language, what is it that's giving probably IMPD and you guys the ability to revoke their license?
It is laid out within state statute. So if there are 3 ordinance violations, we are allowed to revoke that license, and only upon 3 ordinance violations.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Seems pretty cut and dry, honestly. I can't believe that we've spent so much time on this thing.
I'll now entertain a motion. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Leader. I move to send proposal 205-2024 to the full council with a due pass recommendation as amended, and I so move.
The motion been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, that's good enough for now. Second half will be tomorrow, and then there's another Public Works one that'll come out on Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday. So until next time.